When I registered to take the JLPT N1 exam, I hadn't taken any of the exams before and I hadn't had any formal lessons. I kind of just felt like, I think I'm pretty ready for N1. But after signing up, I realized I didn't really have an idea what the exam entailed and I only had about 2 months to get ready. So I had to quickly figure out what the exam was about and how to pass it. So this video is about the strategy and the resources, which are all free by the way, that I used to pass on the first try. Personally, I think with any language exam, the most important thing that you need to remember is you're not really studying the language anymore. Now you are actually studying the exam. Like a lot of multiple choice exams, you'll have 4 options. One of them will usually be kind of ridiculous. Another one will be like, nah, I'm pretty sure it's not that one, but you'll usually have 2 answers left that both seem kind of right, but one of them will be more correct. So the only way you can really prepare for this is by doing a lot of past papers. So that's why I've put a link below with loads of past papers. If you're taking N5 or N4, there aren't so many, but if you're taking N3, N2 or N1, there are plenty there, so you can work through a lot and get a lot of practice. And while you're doing those papers, it's very important to pay attention to the structure of the questions and what kind of answers they're looking for. And of course, you should definitely be timing yourself, and you have to work out if you're clearing the questions in a fast enough time. And to do that, what worked best for me was just to keep going through these YouTube videos where they explain the grammar to the point where it just becomes a second nature to you. And when you open the paper, you can just blast through the questions because you kind of feel like, oh, it's this one again? Pfft, no problem. Oh, it's this grammar, I know this. A lot of the grammar questions and the vocabulary lessons are really just a matter of memorizing lists of things and making sure to check how it can be different from something that's kind of similar. So again, I'm going to put links below for some YouTube channels where you can learn that kind of grammar. A lot of you probably know Nihongo no Mori already. If you don't, then definitely check out that channel. It's quite fun and they've got loads and loads and loads of videos about JLPT grammar. But one that worked really well for me was a channel called Deguchi. What I like about his channel is he just puts all of the grammar in a nice playlist. It's very organized and you can just go from the start to the finish. And even with just those videos, you've probably covered most JLPT grammar. There might still be some things that he doesn't cover, but you'll probably pick those up if you go through all those practice exams which I recommended earlier. And when you do find a grammar point you don't know, you can just simply Google it. You can just write in that part of the sentence that you didn't understand and type JLPT afterwards, Google search it, and you'll find a lot of websites explaining this grammar. The one that I liked the best was called Nihongo Kyoushi, and the reason I like that site is because they only explain things in Japanese. I think sometimes when we translate things to English or whatever your native language is, we get a false impression of what that grammar really means. Whereas when you read the explanation in Japanese, you usually get a more real sense of what that word actually means and how it's used. And these tiny differences in uses or nuances are really important when you're taking this exam, because as I mentioned earlier, there'll often be 2 answers that are almost correct, and usually you'll get tripped up if you don't know exactly what that word or that grammar means. And another channel that I've linked below has loads of the listening part of the exam. Personally, I found the listening parts a bit hard at the beginning, which was strange because I've learned a lot of Japanese by listening to podcasts, watching Netflix, and just getting a lot of immersion in general. So I thought my listening skills were quite good. But the confusing thing was, when I did the listening part of the exam, I could clearly hear what the people were saying, but I still didn't know the answer to the question. And that's because at the beginning, I didn't quite know how the examiners were making these questions. But once I got used to the structure of these questions, I started to know where the answer was going to be in this audio recording. I really recommend just listening to a lot of those so you can really get used to the structure and where the answer is going to come in those recordings. And on that channel that I've linked below, they have all the answers at the end of the video. So I just kept a piece of scrap paper. I just wrote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I wrote the answers, and then at the end I checked my answers. And if you search on the internet for the scoring of the exam, you can also find how many points you get for each question. I'll put a link for that below as well, just to make it easier. So that's all the resources that I used, and this is how I structured my routine. Every day I try to do the written part of the exam. It takes a lot of time for the JLPT N1, it's 110 minutes. But as I said earlier, I think it's important to be doing it the same as the exam conditions. So it is important to set yourself a timer and to be doing it like that, because time is the hardest part about this exam. Trying to figure out how to get all these questions answered as best possible in the amount of time that they give you. So I would try to do it every day, but 110 minutes is a long time. I have a job and a child, so it's quite hard. But as much as possible, I try to get one of those into my day at some point. Then when I was checking my answers, I would take notes of where I went wrong, and I would look those up, like I said earlier, on Nihongo Kyoushi or on any of these other websites that prepare you for JLPT, or sometimes on a YouTube channel, and I would go over that grammar again until it was stuck in my head. As for the reading part, if I got a question wrong, I would go over and read that whole chunk of text again and try to see where that answer is. Usually I found that once I sat down and read it slowly, I would be like, okay, I see, that's the answer. So then next time, again, it might help you get used to the kind of answers they're looking for, and that might help you when you're under a stricter time limit. And for the listening part of the exam, I usually try to do that in the evening. Sometimes I didn't have time. So on those busier days, I would use that time to just be looking up things that I didn't know already, or working through those playlists on YouTube and just trying to make this grammar second nature to me. And I'm not going to go specifically into the timings that I used or exactly how I answered the questions, because I feel like on the internet a lot of people have different opinions about those, and I read some things that worked for some people and they didn't work at all for me. And if you're wondering how I got to N1 level without any formal classes, then you can check out this video here where I talked about how I used immersion to get myself to that level.